You're a soldier before you're a child. By 10 years old, they call you the strongest weapon the kingdom owns. Not the strongest boy, the strongest weapon. You didn't choose that title. It was carved into you the same way a blacksmith carves an edge into steel, through pressure, through repetition, through pain nobody bothered to name. You're Kaidou. And one day, centuries from now, people will call you the strongest creature alive. But before any of that, before the bounty, before the dragon, before the throne built on somebody else's spine, you're just a kid in a kingdom that survives by stealing, wondering why the adults around you flinch every time you ask a question they can't answer. Here's what almost nobody tells you about what it actually costs to become the thing they end up calling a monster. You grow up on the Grand Line in a small nation called the Vodka Kingdom, and the first lesson you learn is that survival isn't fair. It's arithmetic. Your kingdom's too small, too poor, too weak to pay its dues to the world government honestly, so it raids other towns instead. Grown men come home with sacks of stolen coin and call it strategy. You call it what it is. Nobody asks your opinion. By the time you're 10, you're already the strongest soldier the kingdom has. Not the strongest for your age, the strongest, period. You can put down grown men before breakfast. The king smiles at you the way a man smiles at a good investment. The other soldiers don't smile at all. They just get out of your way and find somewhere else to stand. You tell yourself this is what strength is for, protecting people, feeding people. You believe that for a while because believing it's easier than the alternative. Then you get older and the questions start. You watch the king count his stolen gold in a room warmer than any home in the kingdom. You watch soldiers bury the bodies of the people your kingdom raided last season, and no one, not one single adult, will look at you when you ask why those villages had to burn for your kingdom to eat. You ask the king directly, once when you're around 13. You don't remember exactly what you say. You remember that your voice doesn't shake, and that this seems to frighten him more than any sword you've ever swung. The king doesn't answer you, he doesn't punish you either. He does something colder. He looks at you the way you look at a weapon that started making its own decisions, quietly calculating what to do before the blade turns on the hand that forged it. Weeks later, you're told you're being given to the Marines, not sold in the way merchants sell fruit, sold the way kings sell problems. In exchange, your king gets an invitation to the next reverie, a seat at a table with the world nobles he spent his whole life groveling toward. That's your price, a seat at a table you'll never sit at yourself. You don't scream, you don't beg, you do the only thing that ever made sense to you. You use the strength they built, and you walk out. You escape Marine custody before they can put a leash on you, before strongest weapon becomes government property with a different flag stitched onto it. You're somewhere around 13 years old, alone on the Grand Line, and for the first time in your life, nobody owns you. It doesn't feel like freedom yet. It just feels like falling with nothing underneath you, like the ground you always assumed was there simply wasn't. You find your way onto a ship that terrifies half the world just by existing. The Rocks Pirates, captained by a man named Rox D. Zebek. You're a teenager standing in the shadow of legends, an apprentice among monsters, and for once in your life, being strong isn't unusual. It's the entry price. Zebek doesn't coddle you. Nobody on this crew coddles anybody, but there's something in the air here you never felt in the Vodka Kingdom. The sense that strength isn't being harvested from you for someone else's throne. It's yours. You're becoming something, not just being used as something. You learn to fight beside pirates who would make emperors nervous decades later. You learn what real ambition looks like. Not a king hoarding coins in a warm room, but people aiming at the entire world government and meaning it. You're still a kid underneath the muscle and the reputation, though you'd never say that out loud. You watch, you listen, you get stronger, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a thought starts forming that'll define the rest of your life. Maybe strength isn't for serving, maybe strength is for ruling. Then comes God Valley. It starts as a hunting ground. The world nobles have turned an island into a killing field, a competition with human beings as the prize, and the Davy family, Zebek's own bloodline, are among the hunted. Your crew doesn't hesitate. You go in to pull your people out of the fire, consequences be damned. But the Roger Pirates are there too. Goldie Rogers' crew, arriving for their own reasons, and a young Marine Vice Admiral named Garp is standing in the wreckage of it all. What should have been your crew's rescue becomes something far larger and far worse. Zebek changes in front of you during the climax, becomes something you don't have words for, something that isn't quite your captain anymore. And then it's over. The Rocks Pirates, the crew that made you believe strength could belong to you, gets crushed, scattered, ended. You survive. You don't know yet whether that makes you lucky or cursed. Years pass. You don't rebuild what Zebek built. You build something entirely your own. You gather people, not soldiers loaned to a king, not apprentices under someone else's flag. Your own crew, answering to you and only you. You call them the Beast's Pirates, and you grow them into something the world government has to take seriously whether it wants to or not. Eventually, tens of thousands strong, one of the largest forces to ever sail under one banner. You eat a fruit along the way at the Wo no Mi Model Seiryu, and it changes everything. You're no longer just the strongest weapon a kingdom built. You can become an azure dragon, wind and lightning and fire answering to you the way a sword answers to a hand. When you fly over the sea for the first time in that form, vast and unbound beneath an open sky, you understand finally, viscerally, what the king back in the Vodka Kingdom was so afraid of. He was right to be. You become an emperor, one of 4 people alive who can look at the world government and not blink. The scale of it should feel like triumph. It feels some nights like nothing at all. You find Wano, an isolated country, closed off from the world, ruled by a shogun named Kurozumi Orochi, who wants power he can't hold on his own. You strike a deal. You give Orochi the muscle to crush anyone who opposes him. In exchange, Wano becomes yours. Not the throne, you don't need the throne, but the machine underneath it. Weapons, devil fruits, an entire secret industry built in the shadow of a country the rest of the world barely remembers exists. For close to 20 years, you're the true power in Wano, and Orochi's just the mask you wear in public. There's a man named Kozuki Oden who won't kneel, former daimyo, former Whitebeard commander. A man who sailed with Roger himself and came home believing Wano deserved better than what you and Orochi were building on top of it. He opposes you openly, stubbornly, in a way that should be laughable coming from one man against your empire. It isn't laughable. It gets under your skin in a way almost nothing does anymore. You and Orochi have him executed publicly, boiled alive in the flower capital, branded a traitor for daring to leave and daring to return with opinions about how Wano should be run. It's meant to end the problem. It doesn't. It plants something instead. You have a child, Yamato, born to be your heir, raised to inherit everything you built. The crew, the reputation, the weight of the title, Kaidou's blood. But Yamato doesn't want your empire. Yamato wants to be Oden, studies him, idolizes him, stands in front of you one day and tells you plainly that Yamato intends to live as the man you executed. Something in you breaks in the worst possible direction. You don't sit Yamato down and talk. You raise your hand instead, and it isn't the last time. Yamato ends up locked away on Onigashima, still a child, because a child chose to worship your enemy instead of you. You tell yourself it's discipline. You still call Yamato my son, and maybe some tangled up part of you means it as something closer to acceptance than mockery, but you never once say that part out loud, and Yamato never gets to hear it plainly either. The silence sits between you for years, ugly and unresolved, exactly the way you built it. You bury the mirror Yamato holds up to you the same way you buried every other uncomfortable thing in your life. Under work, under war, under the next fight big enough to make you stop thinking. 2 years after the war at Marineford, you do something no 2 emperors have ever done. You and Big Mom join forces. Everyone calls it an alliance. Neither of you calls it trust. You both know exactly what the other's planning to do once you've squeezed everything useful out of each other. Betrayal isn't a possibility between you and Big Mom. It's a scheduled event neither of you has gotten around to yet. Then a crew of nobodies causes a chain reaction you didn't ask for. The Straw Hat Pirates topple Doflamingo on Dressrosa, gut the devil fruit trade you and your allies built, and now their captain, Monkey D. Luffy, is standing in your territory like he belongs there. The uprising you always assumed would eventually come finally comes. Ninjas, pirates, minks, samurai, Oden's people, and people who simply hate what you've built converge on Onigashima during the Fire Festival, and for the first time in a very long time, you're not the one holding all the strings. Your alliance with Big Mom, never solid to begin with, comes apart exactly the way you both always knew it would, right when you need it most. Your commanders, King, Queen, Jack, fall one by one across the island, and then it's just you and Luffy on the roof under the sky. You throw everything at him. He gets thrown clean off the island at one point, falls into the sea below, and you almost let yourself believe it's over. It isn't. He comes back. He always comes back. Somewhere in the middle of that fight, something in him changes too. He becomes something the world has never seen, laughing like the fight is the first joy he's felt in years, and it maddens you and fascinates you in the same breath. You've spent so long testing how much punishment your body can absorb, wondering privately if there's anything left in this world that could actually end you. For one strange moment on that rooftop, some old, quiet part of you almost hopes Luffy's the answer. He isn't, not like that, but he's enough to end the fight. You both throw everything you have left at once. His final blow comes down as Bajrangun, colossal and absolute, and when the dust clears, you're the one who goes down, not dead, defeated. There's a difference, and lying there, you feel every inch of it. 20 years of rule over Wano end on that rooftop. Momonosuke, Oden's son, becomes shogun. The country you spent 2 decades bleeding for its weapons walks out from under your shadow within a single burning evening. You think about the Vodka Kingdom, about a boy who thought strength meant being useful to someone else. You think about Zebek, about God Valley, about a crew that taught you strength could belong to you instead, right before it was taken from you anyway. You think about Oden, about the stubborn certainty in his voice that some things matter more than power. You think about Yamato, locked away for years for wanting to be exactly the kind of person you executed. You don't get to undo any of it. That's not how this works. But for the first time in longer than you can measure, you're not moving. You're not raiding, or ruling, or testing whether the world can finally kill you. You're just lying under a sky you no longer control, and something that isn't quite relief and isn't quite peace settles over you anyway. The strongest creature alive, flat on his back, finally still. Maybe that was always the only fight that could actually reach you. There are a lot more lives worth stepping into in this world, a lot more monsters, heroes, and everyone caught in between. Subscribe, because we're just getting started.